6 months ago, I promised you guys some townhouses. So how do you feel about having the next episode be all about townhouse building, especially around this area here, and maybe even get 10 Downing Street in? That'd be a good episode. And today I'm going to deliver on that. Well, myself and some friends. So on the server today we've got Aussie, Lan and Wub all working towards the goal of filling Whiteburg City out with some townhouses. So now it's time to pull some weight, and my goal today is to build a terrace of houses facing out there towards the river, and I have the perfect ones in mind for this. Let's have a look at them. So this is the Adelphi Terrace, designed by the Adam brothers in around about 1776, I believe, and what you're looking at here is two different designs. The one at the top here was the original design as built in 1776, and below is the reworking in about 1870 to put it into a bit more of a Victorian state. This is also when the embankment was built along the River Thames. This is a view of it in around about 1800, and you can see there is beautiful Regency Street stuff going on here, and this is how I wish to build it. Now, I've got the plans here for it, and I'm going to have to measure these out to make sure we can fit. So the idea in my head is the way to scale this building is the windows are 2 blocks wide by 3 blocks high at a minimum, and I can show you here the original plans for it. Now, what I'm thinking is we're probably going to end up building those columns there as 1 block wide, windows 2 blocks wide, 1 block wide again. I've got an idea for these columns because they're actually pilasters. They aren't full blocks, so we're going to put some walls in there. And then we're going to carry on that fashion all the way along. So let me just have a little count. 1, 4, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I got to the centre here at 51, so that puts it about 102 in total for this main section. Now I believe the other bits as well are possibly maybe the size of that bit there. So that counted in at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 19 blocks? Okay, so 19 times 2. So I say we're going to need 160, and I'll show you why. Because there's a couple of roads that go down in between these. They aren't connected either side. So that's going to take up a bit of space there as well. So let's see if we got 160 blocks. Right, so 160 is the number. And we have 201, so that's definitely enough space to put this in. I was a bit worried about that. I didn't know whether it's going to fit in here. Excellent. Now we are cooking on gas. The only issue is the original plan has it doubled up. Now we haven't got room to double it up, so I'm just going to build the front terrace, which are the bits you can actually see in the image. So it's going to look amazing anyway. Now I was questioning whether to put a pediment over the top, and I think we will cross that bridge when we come to it. I will see. I do like this. I like the plainness of it, but a pediment might work. Right, shall we get started? So what I'm going to do here is just quickly measure out, I'm going to say 19 blocks off the edge of this, possibly 1 block in. I don't really know what we want going on around the side here. So we've got a staircase going down there. We could do with a staircase possibly coming down here as well. So I'm going to probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out there. That gives us a bit of an offset from that. So I'm going to destroy some of that. Right, let me stack that. Stacking that 18 right. So that should give us the terraced on the end. Now we'll come back and revisit this if it's too small, but we've got a bit of leeway, so that's always nice. So for the road, 1, 2, 3 for the pavement, maybe 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do 1, 2, 3 on that side. There we go. So that's the little road that goes around, and then we're going to have the central piece, which I measured out to be 102, didn't I? It is going to have to be a 2-block centre, I believe, which means we can't put a pediment on it without me getting angry, and 2-block pediments are just horrible. If anyone that builds, they'll understand. Stacking that 101 right, and that should give us 102. Perfect. And that's already looking like it works in there anyway. Now, we've got a bit of leeway, like I said, and you could possibly even put another building on the end here, or even make that end bit bigger. But no, still, I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3 for the pavement there. Actually, to be honest, I think we've got enough space to widen this out a bit. Okay, perfect. So that's the edge of that building there. And we've got a little road section in there. So it definitely looks like it fits with a bit of leftover space. As I mentioned, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with that bit of leftover space. We may put another low-rise building in here, such as this pub. This was the Whitebeard that Krista built all the way back for the pub crawls, all the way back in December, which is probably when I started doing this area. But never fear, we are finally here. to carry on the fun and games. Oh yeah, Lancelot has started the park over in front of the Border Trade Office, which is our version of the old War Office based in London. And this will be the embankment that runs along here, out to sea, well, not out to sea, all the way along the river. It'll be tree lined and everything. Now, I'm not sure we're going to get any of that done in this episode, but breathe in what Ozzy has been working on today. So many townhouses have popped up in the last 24 hours. It's mayhem, but it's good mayhem. Okay, right, where am I? I got a bit sidetracked. Right, well, let me crack on with a bit of a time lapse, get some of this set up for the embankment area. Right then, well, I got slightly distracted, as you could see, with building the entire embankment along here. I mean, it was definitely worth it. I needed to do that. There was a clear need to fix this riverbank, and I think it works very well. Now, there's no finish on top yet. I'm trying to decide whether we want to put a pattern of stonework through here to break it up from the monotony, well, not monotony, but the single tone, the monotoned back and wall. Down here, I've put in some texturing along here just to show that the water does come up a bit higher, especially if there's some waves and a bit of storm. So what I have done is I've planned out the entire terrace now, and I've also added over here a little stable block that will build sort of freehand as I go along. In terms of the building itself, that hasn't been started just yet. I have put over here a little idea on what I want to do for the corner. Let me show you what that looks like over in the sketch again. So this is the original corner, and as you can see, this bottom section is a bit more protruded than that bottom section. Because it allows for this pattern, these pilasters to come up and down, and they actually sit on top of the wall and they rest up against the edge of here. So in Minecraft, it's a bit hard to do. I mean, we could do it all with diorite walls, but I'm not going to go down that route. So what I have thought about doing is just tacking on this onto the front of that and stopping that around about here where the first house would be. Does it go on the corner here? No, it goes, sorry, over here on these edges and there and there. We'll see how that looks. But you can see here, I've already gone through and tried to design those pilasters. It's going to be a little bit difficult on the corner here, especially with the scale we're working at now. So the idea is I've gone through and debugged these so the connection in the middle there doesn't join, but I've left the up section so you've still got a bit of a wall. Otherwise it's a bit too thin, and I think that gap there looks fine compared to the reference. And these pilasters need to be flat. As you can see, they are flat. They've been debugged so the middle section disappears. Now I'm going to go through and try and get this vertically scaled correctly. That will be my sort of go-to. So let's have a look at these Aussies built over here. What I'm going to be building out here is going to be a very similar design to this, probably using bone blocks as rustication at the bottom because you've got the little lines through there. This will be probably my reference design, as Georgian townhouses don't change too much. Though what Aussie has been doing is he's gone through and built a absolute shed ton in the time between I've been off and on. He really has been just running on all cylinders, which is amazing. Anyway, so I'm going to go and count these blocks over here. So these windows, looks at 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a good height for the second floor, and there's always a good choice to put upwards of 3 blocks in between the bottom and the top of the window. Aussie has gone for 2 here, which works, that's fine, and it gives you a nice scale as well. So, right, well, I'm going to quickly try and scale this building up vertically. Well then, after a lot of hassle involving the debug stick and some sort of scaling issues, I even brought Goblin over to have a look as well, and Aussie at some point. I think we've got it. I think we've got the first corner building. So this section is only about 15 blocks wide, 16 blocks wide, yeah, so double center, and it works out really nicely. So a pediment is a little bit annoying when you build it on a 2-block center, although this one does seem to have quite a sloping, narrow gauged one, so it fits well with it. The windows all work out nicely. We've got railings across this one and this one down here, and these pilasters on the sides and in the middle are debugged walls that if I touch or even look at, they will die. So we're going to leave those. But what this means is we now have a formulated plan on how to build it. We've got the height, we've got the scale, because this whole section here is actually the same on the main building over there. Now, I did build a bit of redundancy into this when I did the number counting. This wasn't as wide as I anticipated, so that was the original width, which I think was 19 blocks. Yeah, so we carved it down by about 3 blocks, which is great because it means it's a bit closer to a 1-to-1 scale, which is kind of what we go for, but not. As you can see, most of these buildings are about a 1.2, 1.5 scale, which is good enough. So I'm going to carry on with the main terrace now, try to get the face in there and down there, and we will get the rest of this building in. Now, I thought this would be a good spot to jump back in and just have a little chat about how I do my spacings of windows. So you can see here, we've got 1 block in between, well, 3 blocks in between, which gives us a 1 block sort of center to allow these windows to have something like this, or a drain pipe, or, you know, anything else you want to put in between. And that does help with the proportions of this. Now, Georgian townhouses are notorious for being strangely wide or not so wide. So you can see over here, these have only got 2 blocks between each one. So you've got 2, window 2. And that's kind of how I've gone with this section here. So measured off from the edge of the last object, and the last object in this case was that column there. So we've got another block here next to it. And then you've got the first window, which is 2 blocks wide. Then we're going to go for a 2-block center in between that, and the same there again. Now this is where it changes over into 3 blocks, and the reason I've done this is mainly just because it's a little bit hard to get 2 blocks down here, because you could add an extra window in, and then you would push this too far down, and you would end up with not so much gap, not so much gap on the end here, which isn't what I wanted to do. So I know I could have probably pushed this all out by 1 more block, but don't think that's going to work. I do like having that little gap there, which will allow me to have an area down here as well, and possibly a fence along the front. Knock this bit out as well, and we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, so let me show you what it looks like in real life, because this is kind of how it follows the pattern anyway. So you see what I mean with this. Obviously R1 is not as long, nowhere near as long as this one, but you've got buildings that have almost different spacings in between windows. So these ones are 2 blocks wide, that's for sure, and they're a lot smaller. Then you move on down to this end piece, and you can see here that these are definitely wider than the windows are. So in my mind, that would be a 3-block center, and that then allows this end building to be slightly larger than the middle section, which is kind of how you would build a terrace anyway. And when we get on to building the main section, you'll see that as well. You can see here, this has had an extension at some point on the roof, and I'm not entirely sure I'm going to build the roofs like that along this edge. I think I've already started the roofs. Yeah, so all I've done with the roof here is just hidden it behind a parapet, This will carry on this way, I believe. Yeah, there'll be another course of windows there. And this bit at the end will be a little bit interesting because it's very different to how normal townhouses work, and it could look a bit odd. So I might on this side just extend this section like all the way up there, so you've got it hidden behind that wall there. This does exist, and these are what's known as like fake parapets. So behind it is just hiding this roof. Now we could even come around the corner like this and also hide the roof some more. And this is all open to interpretation. I have gone round and gone, maybe a complete corner like that wouldn't look too bad. I don't think it does look too bad at all. We can now add some decorations on the back of the building as well. Even actually, do you know what? We could probably have another window over there. This one I put here was kind of off-center. I wanted to make it look a bit more quirky around here. But even so, if I just select that with my replace tool, which I've got by going Repel 1, which allows me to then right click the block I want and left click it into place, as you can see there. So what I'm going to do here is just have it as a 2-block center, so this window is slightly off kilter, and that's because the roof does dip down at that point there. So we can even put this window in perhaps 1 block lower than the one next to it, and this adds a bit of depth and a bit of interest to the build. Otherwise it could all look a bit samey. Georgian townhouses are meant to look samey. So you're playing around with ideas on what you want to do. This could be a bathroom, this could be a small little room. That's just kind of my thinking behind it all. It's not an important room up there. That isn't part of the main facade. Now, in my headcanon, the reason this edge of the building is like it is because the original promenade through here didn't exist, which means this was just a small road, not really used by anyone. There was more buildings along here anyway. So when that all got knocked down, the ugly side, let's say, of this building was exposed. And you've even got an extension down here built onto the back of that original house there. So it breaks out into the middle of this section as well. I just thought it looked quite nice. And from the front over here, it does add a bit of depth to this building. You can see I haven't textured any of it yet, and we're going to get onto that in a bit because I've got a few ideas on how I wish to texture it. So I'm just going to finish off this wall here, and then we'll have a look at that. Right, now another little detail I like to do when it comes to drain pipes is make sure they connect through the cornice or any detailing / moulding that might exist on the way up to the roof. So the idea is drain pipes always drain down from the lowest point of the roof, and they'll come through at some point in the wall out into a little outlet. Now I design my outlets to look like they've been made out of cast iron, which is why I use polished blackstone walls. But here what we're going to do is go on up through this part of the cornice. So we can either use deep slate. Let's have a look at that. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I do think it's a bit too grey. I like the sort of the painted iron effect that the blackstone gives. So let's have a look at that one. Yeah, in my mind, that is much better. Now, what happens with that is this will then allow me to go 1, 2, 3 up through there and possibly put that in there on that second cornice. Now, it can look a bit heavy, but once you get a lot of different colours in here, that does help break it up a little bit, having this extra bit of black in there. Same over here on this side. What also does work quite nicely is if we attach that and this bit together, as I've done over there, and you get a better way of it looking like a drain pipe bit. And that is possibly the best way to do this one at the second, I believe. So I have 3 textures down here that I thought might work with the building. First of all, over here we have, so this is a 70-30 split between granite and brick. Brick being the 70, granite being the 30. Now this does look generally how buildings do look with a bit of age to their bricks. Now I thought this looked a bit too red actually, so it's at the bottom of my pile of textures to go for. I don't know guys, you do let me know in the comments below once you've seen all 3 of these which one you thought might look best, but I definitely have a favourite. So moving from the 70-30 split, we're going to have the first of the 50-30-20 split. Now this is a selection of spruce planks and stripped wood mixed in with some coarse dirt. So the coarse dirt in there is at 20, the stripped wood is in there at 30%, and this stuff in here, the spruce planks, is in here at 50%. And now this one does look quite nice. It does match the buildings behind this building, which I thought looked possibly a bit too much. And also with this one, the lentil details I've put in, which are those stripped bits of spruce wood anyway, do get quite lost in the building. So this one was definitely second on my mind. I did like the colour. I thought all those nice little quartz details popped very nicely. But I believe if we move on to the final one, yes, this isn't a troll. This isn't me just trying to be funny. I like building with dirt now. You can take a picture of me here, standing next to the dirt, please. Yes, very well. This stuff is beautiful, and it works so well with buildings. So this is a 50-30-20 split. Now you're looking at this probably going, what? It just looks like lots of dirt with a bit of rooted dirt. I tell you, there is some coarse dirt in there. There isn't coarse dirt in there. Hang on. There is now some coarse dirt in there, so that gives a bit of a darker tone to some of these blocks. And this one, as you can see, really does suit the building very well. Blends nicely with those whitish tones and allows the lentils to pop out in texture as well. Now, don't ever be put off building in dirt, because dirt looks very, very good. So that means it's time to do the honours and actually change this baby all the way from this into what it should be. So on screen there, you can see how I've written out this command. 3 in this case behind the 50 means dirt, but that's one of the archaic terms that we used to use for this back when I was using WordEdit in around about 2014. So 30% for the rooted dirt, and then you got commas separating this out so you can put lots of different colours, lots of different blocks in there at once. And then you have the 20% for the coarse dirt, and if we press enter, there we go. We now have a beautiful dirty abode. Doesn't it just look amazing? Aren't we just so happy that dirt can be used as a block to build with? Just look at the way it blends. Anyway, yes, so I cannot wait for this to be extended across there and for us to have the first view as you're coming into Whiteburg, into a little ferry terminal there, to be this very dirty, very grand looking terrace. So those are the techniques I'm going to be using to build the rest of this terrace. So I believe you guys have probably seen enough from me to allow me to kick into a time lapse and get going with the rest of this terrace. So I will see you after that with a little walk around. And the final piece on the top of this beautiful terrace. Well, obviously that's not true, but here it is, the Adelphi Terrace. Now, we're going to have a little wander around here in a mode to show it off in some shaders. But even this, in its glory, unshaded beauty, is a masterpiece. Come up close and embrace the dirt. Take a big old spoonful of it, put it in your face. Sorry, I just stubbed my toe. This place really did come out a lot better than I anticipated, completely. I had no idea it would end up like this. As you saw throughout this process, the building itself kept changing width and also height, everything sort of changed. Now, I want to give a little quick lesson on that. I mean, so when you're planning something, when you're having a go at building in-game and you're taking real life buildings and translating them into the game, don't be afraid to make it slightly bigger than it needs to be to get those extra little details in, as long as you make it proportionally correct. And you can see here, these buildings are quite proportional, I would say, in my own humble opinion. And so in order to get them to look like this, I had to extend what I was originally planning to do, as we counted in the beginning, of 1 block wide between these windows, out to be 2 blocks wide, so it matched the width of the window, and this gives you a nice proportional shape along the entirety of this facade. In doing so, I ended up losing that stable behind me over there, which is fine because I didn't really have a plan for it. So in the end, it all worked out perfectly fine with nobody having any issues whatsoever, and I'm not spending many hours doing the back of this building. Well, come see the back of this building. I think the back is probably one of my favorite sections of it, just because of the eclectic nature of it. Now, these little overhangs here, these little extensions, are possibly the addition of bathrooms and toilets to the edges of the buildings. Internal toilets weren't really a thing until the Victorian period, so these would have been added later on, and in my mind they're kind of like lead covered, lead lined, I would say. They're not there to survive a nuclear blast. No, they're there for just longevity. Lead doesn't really rust because it's not ferrous. Did you want a lesson on metals? Probably not. Anyway, these were taken from inspiration of London townhouses that do have these strange little outcrops on the back, and I thought I'd give them some detail by adding in the mossy and stuff to make it look like it's got a bit of a gradient, something growing up over there. And that's definitely another theme I wanted to go along for the bottom down here. Things are a bit dirty, a bit dingy back here. We've got the train station just over here. It does get a bit wet around here, as we can see. There's puddles everywhere because it's right next to the sea. So things can grow, little crevices can start sprouting up, bits of flowers and also grass. So I thought that'd be a nice little addition there to fill in a few little corners and add a bit of greenery along what can be quite a brown facade. A few other little details that I really enjoyed adding were these spiral staircases. So we've got one there, and then there was a bit of space left over on here because this back was completely unplanned. So there's a bit of space at the back here. I thought, hey, why not just jab in one of these spiral staircases and have it act as part of the building? And it adds to this eclectic nature of the entirety of the terrace. So I did promise you guys many townhouses. I've built 13. Is that enough? Does that count the quota? Please say yes, because Downing Street will definitely need to be another video, as this one went on a lot longer than anticipated. Now, I obviously, at the beginning, I told you I wasn't the only one building them. Aussie built these, and these ones, and Lam One built some over there as well, and Wob had to go at building some. We've been through this. The title of this video definitely does count as many townhouses, much townhouses. I haven't figured out what I'm calling it yet. Anyway, so when we come back to building Whiteburg City, we'll be over here in this corner, along Downing Street, awaiting the cat to turn up and show us what to announce a new prime minister. No, we're not doing that. I'm staying in power forever. Okay, everyone happy with that? Good. Anyway, I think you guys would probably like to see a little cinematic of what has been built today. The Adelphi Terrace, the wonderful palace fronted building that now sits out here engulfing the Avon. So I will see you at the end of that. Enjoy the cinematic. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this rambling edition of Building Whiteburg City. We've done a lot in my mind, and I can't wait to show you guys what else is going to be built in this amazing city. So guys, until next time, remember, get inspired, get building, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.